Hello, my name is Bill Haley, and this is a video on my education policy. And we'll try to keep this one rather short. I do have another about 38-minute long video out there that I'm going to be posting. So, the first thing you need to know about is the full CRA structure of my reforms. So please go to Haley2024 and look at the CRA page, the Competitive Regulatory Agency. You can go to the longer version of this, and you're going to be able. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but we'll try to speed through this a little bit so you understand my very unique and very powerful school choice plan. So we're going to go through that kind of quickly. Talk a little bit more about this in the other one, but we have currently we have significant socialism in our current system that's having very bad results. We have a full education sector. It's one of the 30 sectors, and we're going to have a full 12 or so education governing agencies, a full CRA structure, a full government, executive, legislative, and judicial powers within the education sector. So you get to pick which education governance you want, whether it's more libertarian, conservative, liberal, highly patriotic, highly critical of United States, whatever you want to do, whether you want to be socialist or capitalist or whatever. There'll be a sector for you. There'll be a CRA for you. People group together, and then they educate their children the way they see fit. So if it's libertarian, they might go almost all private sector, all individual schools and stuff. So a very low taxation on that one. Okay, a dozen CRAs, we just talked about that. The education tax needs to be moved to a more exemptable form. So different governing agencies can do the education tax and use their education tax on their members only. So we cannot just do a full, let's say, sales tax or something where all the taxes come in together and then get put to one monopoly government to be spent by that one monopoly school board or whatever. So because we're going to have competing governing agencies, we need to have exemptable taxes. So we're going to have an age divide. Parents of children under the age of 13 are going to be responsible for their children. Teenagers are going to start taking on responsibilities for themselves. So a very unique idea there. It goes a little bit more into that. We're going to go through these slides really rapidly because it's an introduction, 5-minute long, 10-minute, well, probably about 8-minute long video here. If a person does not receive the benefit, they do not pay the tax. It's a lot to get in onto that. Just go to the longer video or look through my webpage on that one. The lifetime education tax will continue for like 25 years. That's the current education tax. And we're going to, because that has to pay off a lot of debt within the whole governmental system. Again, I explain that more later. The education tax the education tax creates a source of capital. We're going to go from a pay-as-you-go system to having a source of capital in one location that schools and individuals and parents can borrow from to do current education, and their agreement is that they will be paying back taxes or fees or loan payments or however you want to look at it, and how that governing agency does it over the course of however many years they choose to have that. Anyway, so a unique idea here. Public school CRAs can borrow from the Education Sector Board for current expenses and repay the loans. I just went over that. So private schools can start doing that as well. I have a unique way of getting taking all the assets, the schools, the buses, the equipment, everything that the public school system owns right now. It's going to be going into publicly traded corporations. We have a competition, 100 individual publicly traded companies, and they're going to lease out these assets because we're going to need them. even if we go to the private sector education, we're going to need those assets. We're going to need the school buildings and the buses. Okay, that goes a little bit more into, that's just going to make this video a little bit longer. Please read the page. I'm not going to go through this quick enough. I see that. All 100 of these corporations will lease out the assets. We went over that. And then dollar cost average, the money back to the Education Sector Board, which is eventually going to be giving that money to debt repayment for the state, because the state's going to be in debt, because it is. You look at the full debt structure in my debt page, you're going to see why. The income from selling the stocks will add to the Education Sector Board source of capital. So we're going to have a large source of capital people can borrow from. So we're going to stop with the education pay-as-you-go system, and we're going to have a source of capital, people borrowing from it, people paying back into that source because it's a borrow, it's a loan, and they pay back, whether it's share loans or other type of fixed cost loans. There's a lot of ways we can pay back, charity economy and different things. After a decade, we're going to start really switching over to more free enterprise. So we have about a decade-long transition. Private schools will likely set up a variety of business models. Boy, we have no idea what we can do with education until you get government's regulations out of it. There's going to be so many different business models that we can come up with, and new innovative ways. When we don't have that 6-hour-a-day limitations, 180-day limitations and regulations, the testing, everything that we have currently. So anyway, basically what we're going to do is we're going to have 12 different governing agencies for education. You pick yours. And they're going to govern you. They're going to tax you. They're going to give you the benefits. If you go to a libertarian one where they tax you $1 for a little bit of oversight per year, $1 a year for a little bit of oversight, and then you go to the private schools that you want to, that's fine. If you want to go to one that's all inclusive and they tax you $50,000 a year, that's fine too. But you are in the system that you want to be in. With the group that you want to be in, with a dozen different ones, you're going to find one that matches your thought patterns the best. Members vote for their leadership of their CRAs. So once you're a member, you and the other members of your education CRAs join together. There'll be 6 and 6 for the private schools, and 6 CREs for the private schools, 6 CREs for the public school to start off with. That's in the transition. Eventually it's just going to be with the 5% and the 20% limitations. Again, we're going to talk about the age divide. You look more into that on my website. But parents are responsible for their children's education before the age of 13. Then teenagers really start taking over that responsibility at age 13. And parents can still be involved. They can still pay for it if they wish to. But education loans are going to be off the teenagers once they start hitting 13. Within my system, there's competing governing agencies. If you want to have the parent pay for it, you can. Individual schools and CRAs always reserve the right to reject the application or end any association. There always has to be a dual or three-way, however many people, but anybody within that association, it has to be mutual. A school does not have to accept a student, and a student does not have to accept a school. It has to be a two-person, a two-party agreement. 3-party, 4-party, whoever's involved when you're talking about both parents, the student, but it has to be all parties involved agreement. Nobody can force their way into a school. Or a CRA. A CRA does not have to accept you. Anyway. The 20% and 5% limitations will be there. Look at my CRA full structure for that. The public school, one public school will stay secular. However, everybody else gets to stay have religion, and nobody has to go to the secular. It could be with one person if they wish to, but they have one CRA. But we do not force anybody not to be in a CRA. Okay, let's see if I can finish this off rapidly. Education neglect laws will transition to the rating floors from the rating system. So we still have education neglect laws. I have a unique way of doing it through the rating system. Competing for the CREs will be competing for the business of parents and students, and will increase efficiency, standards, and cost effectiveness. That's just the definition of free enterprise. We're going to get a lot more cost effective, get rid of the bad and ineffective regulations and standards, and free enterprise always gets rid of the bad and increases the good. Parents and students will examine the ethics, values, and beliefs inculcated in every school. That's just part of free enterprise. That's part of people choosing and being a parent. When you take that away from the parent by the public school system saying what values and beliefs are going to be inculcated, that's not good. We do not want to take that power away from parents and students. So parents and students will expect more when there's competition for their business. I mean, there's a competition for your business on what school to go to. And especially when you're paying for it. And they're going to expect more. I know I did when I started going to college. I expected a lot more than when I was in high school because I didn't pay for my high school. I started paying out of my own pocket for my college. Anyway, all government involvement in higher education will stop. We're going to get government out of every aspect of higher education. The licenses, the accreditations, the professional license to practice whatever, they will be in competitive governing agencies. There's a lot to get into on that, but we do not need to have the most educated people, the highest earning people, to have socialism for their education. That is incredibly destructive, and it has proven to be destructive and hostile. Okay, higher education is just in the education CRA. It's part of the structure. So it's anything dealing with education, it's in this education sector. The structure allows new certifications and accreditation models both in the education side and the business professional requirement side. I just talked about that. Okay, when parents and students have more responsibility, they become more responsible. Boy, is that true. Boy, that is one of the worst things about the public school system right now. They take away their responsibility, and parents hold back on their responsibility level. There's just no doubt about that. That's just a common human nature. Businesses will likely invest in young teenage students in long-term contracts with innovative terms. That's just one simple business model. You're going to have a lot of new business models popping up that's going to make, especially high school, anything teenage and above, we can make that so low expenses. They could be working as a data entry as they earn their CPA. They can be working as a researcher for a lawyer as they earn their pre-law requirements. Most people can be coming out of high school, or it's going to be intermixed. The lines are going to start to blur between high school and colleges, but they're going to be 18 years old and be ready for their CPA exam and stuff like that. The charity economy will play a role in education, especially for people who are maybe a little bit with some challenges, mental challenges, some physical challenges. People who are going to have a harder time getting a loan because their abilities might not pan out to be able to earn a lot of money. Let's say you have a 90 IQ because you have a mental disability, Down syndrome, and different things like that. You have some challenges. But let's not think that these people cannot do real work and have huge advantages by going to this new system. The freedom of a dozen CRAs and a dozen different full systems to experiment will yield great results. Please consider a donation to this website, to this movement, and everything can be easily found on Haley2024.org. And there's a lot of, everything I said here is very well explained. A lot of extra blogs I have on education. So thank you so much.